Let's start with this notion of disaster. What kinds of disasters are there?
Natural disasters.
Okay. And what might you include in natural disasters?
Tornadoes.
Tornadoes. Okay. Is it OES or OES?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think it's
There's baby sickness.
What else?
Political disaster?
Political disaster?
Or sorry, we still talking about? All right, yeah. We'll say hurricanes, yeah.
For our political disasters, we're living through one hurricane.
No, we're out there still.
Hurricanes.
Volcanoes.
Area one, Maddie?
earthquakes.
Earthquakes. What else?
Flooding. Volcanoes.
Okay. What else?
Earthquake.
Earthquakes. We got that already. Landslides.
Fire.
Okay.
Blizzards.
Blizzards. Yes. How about droughts? Okay, so we can come up with a list. So when we say these are natural disasters, these occur naturally and they don't have any human cause.
Not necessarily.
Okay. All right. Explain it.
Okay, so like fire could be a natural thing, or it could have been started by someone.
And sometimes the worst fires are when we've prevented them in order to protect houses for a long time, and then when they do occur, they're worse. Okay. And there's a number of things that could be exacerbated by human behavior, or maybe even human behavior is a big reason why some of these things occur. So we'll talk about those things later, I think, probably. Okay, so natural disasters, and then what are the other ones? Unnatural disasters? What kind of disasters? So if there's natural disasters, what are the ones that aren't included here? What other kinds of disasters do we have that we don't call natural disasters?
War.
What else?
Famine.
Uh-huh.
Just like could be a result of a natural disaster.
Okay, famine could be related to droughts and war in destroyed infrastructure and things like that. Okay. All right, so in this class, we're going to be talking about a lot of different types of disasters. One that we'll talk about is complex humanitarian emergencies. And Trina knows quite a bit about those. And now, do all of these disasters result in emergencies? And if not, when do they result in emergencies? What would make, yeah?
When people are there?
Okay, when we've got people involved, it's going to affect a population. If it's happening somewhere where nobody lives, maybe it's still not a good thing, but it's not a crisis that we need to respond to necessarily. Okay, so.
Hey, Bob, let me say, I'm not sure if I'll say it later on, but I'll just say now, in terms of natural disasters, a lot of the things that you listed up there are what would be considered natural processes. So they occur within nature on their own, without us affecting them or causing them. So this is a couple of things we might cause, humans might cause or might increase, but most of those are processes that occur normally or naturally.
And they can become disasters.
And they become disasters, and they actually all can present what we refer to as a hazard, a natural hazard. And a hazard is a condition where a natural process might impinge upon human occupation or human settlement or civilization. When the natural process takes place and the hazard is realized, it can create a disaster. And there are severities at different levels of that disaster. But so they are disasters, but they don't have to be disasters. A hurricane or a flood, when it occurs in a place that isn't impinging upon human occupation, it's just a natural process. And so, to clarify, while humans can increase some of the severity, like for example flooding, we'll talk about Harvey in Houston a little bit, they can also be, humans can put themselves in harm's way. If you live on a floodplain, you're creating a hazard and you're inviting a disaster.
Right.
But you don't have to. Or if you live in California, it's your own fault.
Yeah. You live
That's
in
a
places
joke, right?
where these processes
California,
occur
earthquakes.
naturally.
That's a
Yeah.
joke. I developed that very well.
Yeah.
But
If you build a house on the outer banks of North Carolina, one of these days you're not going to see it anymore.
yeah,
So these processes go on and they become disasters. They really can be hazards, but.
and hazards can be mitigated. Hazards we'll talk a bit about how you go about that process, what components are in place. And this is what scientists and people who work on that can help prepare people for that disaster. But sometimes you can't.
Right. So when you work through Module 1 of the Coursera thing, they talk about disasters and hazards, and this language will be reinforced again when you watch that. All right. So what's the difference between refugees and internally displaced persons?
Refugees are when you're forced to leave your country. Really displaced people where you have to leave your home, but you may still be in the same country. People who have to leave Houston.
And the response to these situations are different. When they're still in their own country, there's no jurisdiction from outside that can come in and do something about it. So it can be quite tricky when you've got a large internally displaced population. Whereas with refugees, we've got a whole system that can respond. Now, we'll talk later about who controls the process of addressing disasters within countries. And generally, a country that receives the refugees is going to be responsible. But we'll talk about all the different kinds of responses that we might have, different levels of disaster, and who gets involved at what point.